You're listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. She is passionate, direct, and sometimes a little sarcastic, but always gives you what you need to succeed in business. Now, here's your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 50, Creating Efficiency in All the Right Places, a coaching session with Carol Cox. If you are an entrepreneur who wants to take consistent, massive, focused action in your business and life, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me today. I'm really excited about this episode because, as you will hear, I have had on my goal list to actually bring a behind-the-scenes look at some coaching sessions of me coaching, like real-life clients, so that you can be a fly on the wall, sneak behind the curtains, and really hear what coaching looks like. For some of you, perhaps you've never been coached and never had a coach, so there's a big unknown about what that looks like. And for others, you've been coached, but as you know, each coach is a different experience. I bring a different experience. My personality, my experience, my flavor, all of that in combination of who you are and what you bring to the table and the experiences you have and the challenges that you are going through right now, all create an absolutely dynamic experience, which I call coaching. Now, in this episode, I have to be really, really honest with you. The coaching session was quite in-depth. In fact, it was really in-depth. And the reason is because Carol and I go back, and I was really familiar with her business, her industry, and she really did her homework in preparation for coming on to this coaching session with me. She had listened to many of my podcasts, and we had chatted about different things that were really important to the improvement of her productivity and her growth. So you're really going to be a fly on the wall as we're jumping around from challenge to challenge and referencing quite a bit of things that may have happened in a previous conversation. With that being said, I think it is unbelievably valuable. I think that you will get a really good idea of understanding that there's other entrepreneurs that have very similar challenges. And the last thing that I want to say before you get to meet Carol is that while the challenges are similar, you need to understand that I make my recommendations on two different criteria. One is the real truth, like the strategy that I know that works. But I also include nuances and customization and tailored recommendations based on who you are, based on what's worked for you in the past, based on your personality, the season of life that you're in. All of that is in what's going on behind the scenes in my head on how I make recommendations to a client. I am really excited for you to join us on this journey. This is a bit of a longer episode. I will try and keep my coaching episodes shorter in the future. However, before I decide to bring this format on as a reoccurring type of episode, I really want to get your feedback. So let me know what you think of this podcasting format. Was it helpful? Was it beneficial? Would you listen again? Is this a must listen to type of format? All of that, I would love if you'd share that with me. And you can do that in a few ways. One is emailing me at amber@theproductivityspecialist.com. Again, that's amber@theproductivityspecialist.com. Give me your feedback or leave me a review on iTunes or jump into our private Facebook community. Let me share a little bit about Carol before we jump into our coaching session. Carol is a podcaster, speaker, sought-after presenter, and trainer on public speaking, business storytelling, and women's leadership. Carol teaches business and marketing classes at a university and during election season serves as a Democratic political analyst on TV. While listening in on my conversation and coaching session with Carol, you will discover what a coaching session with me actually looks like, the quickest way to become an expert in your field, how to ensure items on your schedule actually get done, ways to eliminate decision fatigue, and the wrap, R-A-P, that I use every night to prepare for the following day, and so much more. So let's dive right in and meet Carol. Hello, Carol, and welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. How are you doing today?
I am great, Amber. Thank you so much for having me on.
I am really excited. I had actually had on my Q2 goals to do on-air coaching, and you were so generous to reach out and say, hey, do you want to utilize me for on-air coaching? And I said, oh, what better way to get it done than let's make it on our calendar. So we did it, and here we are. So thank you so much for pushing me towards one of my goals this year.
And a quarter early. I'm so happy to hear that.
Exactly. There was no room for pushing that one off because I have met you in person, and we actually met at BizChicks Live Conference, and we got to spend all day rubbing elbows at the same table. So I knew that you and I had some great energy and chemistry. And so I think this is going to be a great episode for our listeners.
Well, Amber, I've been listening to your podcast since we met, and I get so many tips and strategies from it. And then I also get your email newsletters that you send out, and I read them, and I'm thinking to myself, Amber, I know you can help me. And I know how much on-air coaching calls have been a big part of my own podcast, and how great they are for listeners to kind of be able to be a fly on the wall to see how you work. And so then I very gently suggested, Amber, you can help me. Let's do an on-air coaching call.
Well, I'm going to say thank you for taking action, because it turned out great for both of us. So as we move in, I do know a bit about your business and background, but can you share with our listeners in your own words about your business, who you serve, and how you serve them?
Sure. So I help women entrepreneurs. They are generally at least 2 years into their business. So they're not newbies. They need to have a good idea of what they're offering and who they're offering it to, because I help them create their signature talk. And it's very hard to have a signature talk when you're brand new to your business, because you just don't know enough yet about who you're serving and the process. And this is what's so key, the process that you use with your clients or your customers. So that's really what I help with my clients, is I help them to extract what is that unique process, what's their framework they're using. That becomes the foundation of their signature talk. And then they're seen now as an expert and an authority in their field because they have their own intellectual property.
Yes. So I couldn't agree with you more that we're all on an entrepreneurial journey. And when we first start out, we don't quite realize that we haven't found our own voice yet. And we have to work with clients and get experience and fine tune our niche and our messaging before we're ready for that signature talk. So I love that you identified 2 years in is about the time that you should be able to clarify your message in a way that you're able to work with them to give them these great results.
Exactly. I know, Amber, you've done a lot of speaking yourself, and you were on my podcast a couple of months ago. And I got so much great feedback on that episode about your speaking experiences and about what speaking engagements to say yes and no to. So thank you for coming on.
Yes, it was a great interview. I got a lot of feedback from it as well. And so we'll definitely link to that in the show notes. Carol, can you share with us what is your main challenge that you would like to go through in today's coaching session? What are you right now is your biggest challenge with moving your business forward?
So I feel like, maybe feeling is not the right word, I have too much to do. So my business quadrupled between 2016 and 2017. And which is fantastic. And I love all the clients that I'm working with, but I'm doing all of the work. And I have scaling things that I have to work on, and that will help alleviate some of this, but I feel like that's still 6 months to 9 months away. So I have so much to do because I'm doing the vast majority of servicing my clients, but also creating the podcast and, managing my Facebook group and creating other things that I need to do. Plus, I also teach at a university. And so that takes up time, and just like everything that has to get done. And I feel like I'm constantly moving to do items literally from one day to the next. And I keep moving them, and it's frustrating for me to not, because I'm an achiever, an accomplisher, and I want to check things off the list, and I can't because there's like 12 things on my list every day.
Right. Okay, Carol, I really hear you. And I think that anyone that's listening right now that has been in a place where their business has grown and they've felt some success, they are in the same place as you. And this is kind of how I reference where I hear you're at. I call it trying to cross the river. So one side of the river is you're a solopreneur, you're doing well, you're building your business. But then at some point, your business grows exponentially and you're not quite on the other side of the river where you have your scaling in place, where you have staff and support and your processes and your systems have caught up to the growth of your business.
So I'm drowning in the middle of the river.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So it feels like you're drowning in the river. So our goal is going to be how to get you to cross that river as quickly as possible. Because one of two things are going to happen in my experience of working with business owners. You are either going to stay where you're at way too long and it gets stressful and overwhelming to the point where we retreat. And we retreat and say, oh my gosh, business growth is not for me. I don't want to do this. I want my weekends back. I want time with my spouse. Like, I'm going to go back to the way things were. Or we do what we're going to go through today and, implement some of these strategies and try to get over to the other side of the river as quickly as possible so that you don't feel like you're doing this yourself and drowning and that you're not able to keep up with this amazing exponential growth that you've experienced.
Yes, that sounds perfect because I do feel a little bit of that pull to the first thing that you described, which is, oh, wait, maybe I should slow down this business growth and not do sales as much and not put out, as much content. And I don't want to do that at all. I want to continue to serve more people. So I want the latter, but I am feeling that pull towards let's just slow down.
Right. So Carol, what would happen if you chose to retreat back and pull back on your marketing and how many clients you service? What would that look like for you?
Well, practically, it would look like I would have more space in my calendar, but that also would mean that I'm not hitting the goals that I want for my business. So I have revenue goals. I do want to bring on additional team members to help me serve as clients. But then the bigger picture is that I really strongly feel, and this has been my entire career, that as women, we need to have positions of influence and leadership in our society at all levels. I have a background in politics. So we're talking about, whether it's government and politics, business, our communities, organizations, and that I want to help more women have the confidence and the tools to be able to do that. So that's my bigger why. And that's what keeps me wanting to push forward despite all of the work that I feel is weighing on my shoulders.
Right. Okay. So I hear you, Carol. Your big why is to have an impact. So when entrepreneurs decide to retreat back, unfortunately, that means that they're not able to serve the world with their unique skills and talents. And you have so much to share. So I can't wait to get you on that other side so that you can definitely serve more people, make a bigger impact with ease and less stress.
That sounds amazing, Amber.
Okay. All right. So, and it's a journey. And I just want to be really honest with you. So today we're going to go through some strategies. And like every episode of Productivity Straight Talk, the rubber meets the mat at the action. And not always is action super, super easy. But what I do in my coaching sessions, and we're going to do today, is give you simple strategies, but simple doesn't always mean easy, that you are going to be able to implement. And then through compounding it over time, you'll see big rewards back. So let's brainstorm some ways that we can get you to leverage quicker. So share with me, what are some of these projects or tasks that seem to keep getting pushed over, day after day?
Oh, that's a good question. They range quite a bit. So for example, I have my own podcast, and right now I'm releasing a solo episode of the podcast tomorrow. So the day after that, we're recording this episode. So I do a mix of interviews and solo episodes. So because the episode is due to come out tomorrow morning, I really should have done the podcast recording maybe a week ago, maybe even before that would be ideal. So I could give it to my VA because then she does the graphics and things like that. Well, I just finished recording the episode about an hour ago before we got on our call, and I still haven't edited yet. And it's supposed to go out tomorrow morning because I haven't had time. And I was supposed to work on it yesterday on Sunday, and I just was burnt out. Like I wanted a day off from the weekend.
Totally.
So I didn't do it. And so that's the kind of thing that I was going to do it last Thursday. Then it got moved to Friday. Then it got moved to Sunday. Then it got moved to today. And now I have to get it done. So it could be big things like that. It's also little things like following up on prospects who I've talked to, sales follow-ups. It could be things like, I need to help promote someone's event on social media because they have promoted my event. So they really, really run the gamut. And I guess I'm having a hard time I don't know if it's prioritizing or if it's maybe I shouldn't put them on the to-do list. Maybe I should have buckets on my to-do list instead of specific items.
Yes. Okay. Do you do block scheduling? Do you currently utilize block scheduling?
Like batching?
Yeah. Or would I see on your calendar specific days or times for recording episodes of your podcast or for lead follow-up? Is that a regular item on your calendar?
So the short answer is no. If it's something that I have to do by myself, it doesn't end up on the calendar, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Things that I have to do with someone else, like if I'm recording an interview or I have a client session, those are on my calendar, and I have days like Tuesdays, Thursdays, I do client sessions and podcast interviews, and then Mondays and Wednesdays are for the university, and then Friday it's kind of like my catch-up day. So I'd have kind of themed days, but then as far as appointments for myself, like sales follow-ups, I have tried in the past to put those appointments on the calendar. And if I'm not accountable to someone else to show up, I'll be totally honest, it doesn't happen. It's on my calendar and I just breeze right by it.
Right. Okay. So you and a lot of other people that are listening, and there's a lot of different dynamics to this. And I think that people are used to hearing, just put it on your calendar, have the discipline to show up and just show up. But here's the reality. When that's on your calendar, you actually have other either self-created fires, which are things that you've, procrastinated on that now become really urgent, or you have things that, maybe a client is waiting for your feedback on something or an email. And so all of those things and tasks become a priority because they didn't have a place on your calendar. And so those always override appointments with ourselves, because at some level, sometimes we feel like that is being selfish. Okay, I'm going to lead follow up when no one's really expecting us to follow up with them. There's no hard deadline. So if we don't do it, nobody really knows it except for us.
Yes, that is so true, Amber.
Right?
Yes.
But if I don't return that email or respond to this request, then somebody knows that it's been sitting in my inbox for 3 or 4 days. So I need to get to that first. And so when we have these polls, it often wins. And so what I like to do is look at how we can create time in our schedule to ensure that those items get done and have a place, so that when we have something like podcast, recording or anything that you're looking to build your business or a deadline that you have with yourself, that you can confidently know that this is where you want to be, this is where you should be, and you don't have all these other lingering things going on.
I like that. So it's like a place for, I know I'm going to respond to these clients or whatever it happens to be, but I'm going to do it on this day at this time so I don't feel burdened. And really it's feeling mentally, like psychically burdened, more so than burdened by anything else. It's like that it just hangs there in your mind.
Totally. So Carol, you had listened to my episode on productivity plus profitability, where I shared my 3 buckets, or 4 buckets rather, right? So you got marketing, your marketing visibility bucket, you got your sales bucket, and then you've got your client services bucket. And then your 4th bucket is the other bucket. You did listen to that one, right? Because I think we've talked about that.
I think that's what prompted me to reach out to you.
Okay, good. Okay, so those are the 4 buckets. And when we're thinking of being productive, we often put on our schedule or in our tasks the first 3 buckets, because that's what we should do. We should have marketing stuff, which is your podcast. We should have sales conversations. We should be servicing our clients. But because we don't actually schedule the 4th bucket, the 4th bucket always ends up taking precedence. And so I believe that you should be scheduling that 4th bucket on a regular basis. And depending on your workflow, maybe a little bit daily and or a large chunk of it on one day of the week. You said you really like theme days. Mm-hmm. And so what is your catch-up day? You said that was Friday?
Usually Friday. I also save Fridays for VIP days with clients. We're going to work together like for 4 hours or 6 hours. So I kind of leave those. But if I don't have one that week, then I'll usually use that as the getting other stuff done.
Okay. Yes. Getting all that random stuff done. So if you can schedule something on your calendar regularly, that you know that these are the types of tasks that would get done there, then you can feel safe that when you need to record at 10 o'clock, that you're good, because at 3 o'clock, you've scheduled an hour to respond to any like emails that are outdated, that are sitting in your inbox that people are waiting to respond to you from. You can do outbound phone calls, or you could do lead follow-up, that you have those specific times on your calendar that you know that you're not blocked out with other things like client appointments, mastermind meetings, VIP days.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And do you, I know this depends, I think this is my other challenge, is that trying to figure out what time of the day is the best time for me to do these different things. So I usually start work around 9:30 in the morning. So I'm not a super early riser. I like to read and, while I'm having breakfast and things like that. And so but I have found that I've gotten into the habit where it takes me probably 2 hours after I sit down on my computer to get in the zone, to get in the flow of doing any type of meaningful work. So I end up flittering my time away in Facebook groups, right? Or checking the news, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I feel like it takes so long for me to get settled in. And then I'm wasting my mentally my most productive time of the day, which is before lunchtime.
Okay, this is great. So this is going to actually play into some of your other challenges. So you're not doing anything purposeful. You're kind of warming up. Now, I'll give you how I warm up my day and just see if that sounds like it might fit for you. If you read other, productivity experts or books, they, kind of like eat your frog, like you do the most important thing first thing in the morning. Well, you sound very much like me, where I need to be warmed up like a car. And so what I do is I purposely schedule tasks that are quick, that I get quick wins from, that get things off of my a rapid fire, getting little things off my to-do list. And I take that momentum and that win, and then I dive right into my highest and best activities, which is for me, content creation. So I never dive into content creation the first minute I sit down at my desk. So you might need to just find maybe 30 minutes and know that these are the X activities you're going to do in that 30 minutes that will let you start ticking things off your to-do list, but warming you up so that you can get yourself in the headspace to go after your highest and best activities.
I like that a lot. And it is very different than what a lot of people recommend. About don't check your email, don't check social media until 12 o'clock. It's I don't know, in my mind, I know it's the dopamine hits, I know why it is that we do it, but I have to do it. I can't stop thinking about it until I check it.
Right. Okay. So then the second part of that is I want you to start becoming very, very specific with the appointments that are on your schedule. So when you need to record an episode, I don't want it to just say record episode. I want it to say, record intro and outro to episode 42. And then record, content, if it's a solo episode. So record full length episode. And you're going to put a start and end time. And by being more specific with this, you have what I call micro goals. And so when you sit down, you're going to have to start that task and end it within the time frame that you expected to get it done. And you'll get better and better at knowing how long you should be scheduling for each task. But what it does for you is ensure that you're distraction free for that 30 minutes or that 60 minutes. Because any other white space on your calendar can be, I'm jumping into my email or checking Facebook. That happens. And as we move forward through coaching and we move forward in improving your productivity, we'll improve those productivity habits. But for now, I want you to be able to carve out specific tasks with specific timeframes on your calendar.
And then Amber, so do you recommend that I set a timer somewhere that shows me, how long is left in that time block, or, when a bell goes off at the end of that 30 minutes or 60 minutes as a cue?
Yes, if that works for you, absolutely. For me, I just look at the clock. I always have two screens up, and I have my daily calendar on one screen, and then I'm working on the other screen. So I know that if I'm supposed to do something between, 12 and 1, I know specifically what task I'm doing. I don't have any other screens up, that I'm really just focused for that 1 hour. Here's the thing, Carol, we are not going to be productive all day, every day. In fact, we're often not productive most days. But what we want to do is start building and stacking good habits on top of each other so that we can at least carve out a few hours each day to ensure these high priority projects get done. And so just to recap where we're at is I want you to be really specific about when you're doing it, that you're prepared, that there's no other interruptions for that time, but also not being tempted by the other things that are drawing your attention because we've got carved out time on your schedule to do so. So the things that you are drawing your attention, like your Facebook group or in other people's Facebook groups so that you're getting visible, and that's a part of getting visible in marketing. I would love to see that literally on your schedule to where you've carved out 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever time it is. And maybe you put yourself on a diet. So like right now, if you're doing 45 minutes, maybe we can cut it back to 30 minutes.
I love this idea of a diet. Yes. I'm putting myself on a time diet.
Exactly. So Carol, instead of a crash diet where we're saying no more you're doing this, we're going to say, how can we cut it back from 45 minutes to 30 minutes? And that you're super clear that from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, that you're going to go and check your Facebook group. You're going to check other people's Facebook groups, that in an effort to get out there, because there's a purpose with it. And then you're done. You're done in 30 minutes and you move on to your next task. What you're going to be doing is building the muscle of discipline. And what I like is that once we create a schedule, and we know what we're supposed to do, when we're supposed to do it, the thinking comes out of it. And then your only job is to work the schedule. So it just takes a little mindset shift into wondering, well, what should I be doing? What's the best use of my time? How do I transition into my next activity? I want you to have planned your day and then you just work the plan.
And Amber, I really like when you said that taking thinking out of it, because here's what I've noticed, especially after last year and how much growth I had, is that even though I would be working with my clients virtually on Zoom, like literally sitting down, but it's such an exhaustive process because my brain is on all the time. And I have to be in each person's business and their topics and all of that. And that I realized what I was coming up against was decision fatigue, where I was just like, and I think that's also where I would get into this spiral, this loop of not getting stuff done, because I found that I just didn't have the brain space anymore to make decisions.
Okay, Carol. So let me ask you this. Do you get energy from other people when you're with them? So let me rephrase this. Let's say you're lower on energy and then you get on this interview with me. Do you find that you have higher energy during our conversation?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm very similar. So I'm an extrovert. So that means that I get energy from other people. When you were asking when you should do certain activities at certain times of the day, I'm going to share with you what I do. And then for an introvert, it might be very, very opposite. So for me, I have content creation carved out in my schedule first thing in the morning, because it takes me focused energy. It takes a lot of energy and brain power for me to create content. But if I just had a blank schedule, I could do whatever I wanted all day long, my energy would normally waver mid-afternoon between 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. And so what I've done is I've blocked out, I have similar to you, I have theme days. So I do all my coaching client work Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And I also meet most of my clients via Zoom. So what I do is I carve out my morning from 8:30 to 10:30 is content creation / projects. And then I get into, and I have an 11 o'clock, and then I eat lunch. I have a 1 o'clock, a 2 o'clock, a 3 o'clock, and sometimes a 4 o'clock. Because that is the best use of my afternoons, because I literally get energy from them. There's never a time that I show up to a client appointment where I'm not on. But I literally, if I have a cancellation at 3 o'clock and then I try to plug in focused work, it's never happening. It's not going to happen. And so what you're doing is, because you're trying to put that time in either after 2 or 3 back-to-back appointments, your energy, your mindset is just not ideal for you.
Right. It's very outward focused at that point, because I've been interacting with people, and it's hard for me to come back kind of interior into myself to create that content.
Right. So I would invite you, Carol, what would that look like if you created a schedule that was with your energy, your natural energy levels? What would that look like for you?
I think it would be similar to what you do, is doing the focus time, the deep work, the content creation in the morning before my first my appointments are scheduled. And then I would think that I try to schedule at least a 30-minute break in between client sessions or podcast interviews or whatever it happens to be, at least 30 minutes. So it may be in between those sessions, because I can't really do deep work. You can't in 30 minutes. Like you're the transition time and all of that. So maybe that is where I would schedule checking into my Facebook group or responding to emails, because I'm doing that anyways, but it's not on the calendar that I'm doing it.
Right. Well, if you saw it on the calendar and you would know, okay, so I have a 1:00 and then I have a 2:30. So at 2:00, I could be doing 30 minutes of Facebook groups. Then maybe you wouldn't be as tempted to do it first thing in the morning, because you know that you have that time carved out.
Oh, yes, that is so true. Again, like taking that decision making off of my mind and knowing that it's taken care of on the calendar.
Right. And so I like to call these productive breaks. So what we're doing is you're carving out 30 minutes in between appointments to kind of reset yourself, shift yourself, maybe get up, change focus from client work to jumping on Facebook or emails. See, you're actually getting things done that need to get done anyways, but you're going to be more purposeful about it. And so when you know that you're going to have maybe 2 blocks of 30-minute email time that day, I believe that you will be able to most likely be more focused during your content creation or your high-value projects, or you're recording your podcast, because you know that you have time carved out later in that day specifically for those types of activities.
Amber, are you closing your email program out then when you don't have that time block, and that time block has not come yet on your calendar?
Yes, most days I do. So when I have specific blocks of time on my calendar for an activity, if I do not have to be in my email box, I close it. I shut it down. And when I say shut it down, I'm just minimizing it, because this is a good tip if you're not doing it. There should be no notifications of emails coming into your world. Not on your phone, not little boxes coming up at the bottom of your screen, no chimes, rings, or dings. You want to check your email on your schedule. So process your emails on your schedule, not when you get notified that something new is coming up.
Yes, I am very good about that.
Okay,
as
cool.
far as no notifications. Yes, I am good, but I do keep the window, the tab open, on my browser. But I'm thinking that for me, I probably should just close it.
Right.
And just know that if an hour or two goes by and someone doesn't get a reply, they will probably survive.
Right. Everybody will survive. It's amazing that we think everybody needs us, and then we get sick with the flu and we're like literally unable to respond, and the world still goes on and nobody's mad. But when we're trying to do our most important work, we think everybody needs us right now.
Yes, because it's so easy to procrastinate that way.
Yes, yes. So, Carol, I want to just touch on a couple other things, because honestly, when we look at making improvements in our schedule or getting rewards, I find that it's a layered of different productivity strategies and time management tips that really get us the results we're looking for. So just to recap, we talked about while you have theme days, to carve out your client work in specific time that matches your energy levels. We talked about carving out and scheduling specific time for your project stuff, which would be all of these tasks that you said get rolled over from day to day. While you'll have a hold on your calendar that would say content creation or podcast, you're going to, when you plan your week or your days, you're going to be very specific with what actually gets done during those times. So when you wake up and you have your cup of coffee and you read, and then you open up and you start your day, you're going to know exactly what to work on, so you don't have decision fatigue.
Oh, I like that. And I think that's especially important for me for Monday mornings.
Yes.
Right. After it's like figuring out, okay, it's the new week. What do I really need to be doing Monday morning? Yes.
So, Carol, do you plan your day from day to day? Do you have time on your schedule?
Do I have time? Do I put it on my schedule? No. But what I do at the end of every workday is I move my to-do items from today to the next day.
Okay. So I call it a RAP, R-A-P. So you're going to review, action, plan. And I would love that you have it on your calendar, so that this is what's going to happen is, let's just say I'm sure you have calendar links out there to the world where your clients can schedule time on your calendar, right?
Yes, but I'm very good. They're very limited. They're only certain days and only certain times.
Okay, good. So at the end of your day, I want you to schedule out 15, at the most it will be 30 minutes where you're reviewing your current day. And I have a article on my podcast I have an article on my website and a podcast that I'll link to in the show notes as well as send to you about the 5 daily planning pavers. And what this is going to do is set up the habit of reviewing your day and scheduling the next day. And why I like this is because if today didn't go as planned, I want you to kind of triage and determine based on priorities, how is tomorrow going to go? And I want you to do that today for tomorrow. And when we plan our day today for tomorrow, then we don't fall prey to the way we feel for the day. Because some days, Carol, I'm sure you feel like waking up, slaying the day, getting everything on your to-do list done. And then other days we're like, okay, what am I going to do today?
Right.
And so when we feel that way, guess what? Our plan actually reflects the way we feel. And so what I have found is that if we plan our day the day before, then our only job is to execute on that plan. And we take a lot of the feeling out of it. Like, I don't feel like recording today. Okay, well, now you're going to work that muscle of it's on my calendar. And clearly, because of the way I scheduled my day, today is the day that I've designated specifically for recording that episode. What do you think about having a more formal process of reviewing your day and ensuring that you're not, that you're fully optimizing the time you have?
I think that's a good idea. I do, at the end of the day, I do look at my Google Calendar and kind of figure out, okay, what's on the agenda for the next couple of days. And I can see what's on there. But then I imagine that what I would need to do is take a look at my to-dos and then, like you said, be really specific and put them on the calendar with what that's not just the general record a podcast, but the more specifics of what that needs to happen for that particular podcast.
Yes. And you know what happens, Carol, is there's a lot of grace in this because once we start scheduling specific tasks, we can clearly see we're never going to get it all done. Yes. Because our list is so much longer than any time period we have that next day to get it done. So because that happens and because we're literally scheduling our tasks for the next day, we have grace in saying, you know what, we're not going to get it all done. But it also forces our hand to ensure that we're scheduling our highest value activities, most high priority tasks, because it's clear that if I do all this other stuff in the morning for an hour and a half, that's really pushing out the work that needs to get done.
Right. Like I'm looking at my calendar for tomorrow and I have either podcast interviews or client sessions from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. With like 30-minute blocks in between. But I think I probably have five different things. And so I've gotten much better, I say, than even 6 months ago. I have to at least give myself a little pat on the back where on my to-do list tomorrow, the only thing I really have is to promote my podcast episode because it comes out on Tuesday, to post it in a couple of places. And now because I have learned in the past, because I didn't have, quote, anything else on my to-do list for that day, even though I was booked from 10 to 6, I would still put on 5 things on my to-do list. Just imagining that somehow I would just magically have more time and get it done. And so I have learned to be a little bit more realistic with that.
Yes. So those days, you're really not going to get much done. And so what you want to do is maintain. You want to make sure that you maintain keeping up on your email, that you maintain your visibility in your groups, that you're doing those things in between so that you don't feel like you're getting behind on your emails to where on Friday is your catch-up day, and now you're spending 2 hours trying to get caught up on emails and such like that. So I would love that you don't feel like you've gotten behind because you had 2 or 3 days of client scheduling like that. And then on Fridays, when your catch-up day comes, it's less catch-up, more planning, and specifically carving out those larger blocks of times for projects that you so desire. Because you're simply not going to find those on your client days. Like based on your schedule, the work that you need to do, anything 60 to 90 minutes, doesn't seem like it's going to happen with how many client appointments you have based on your business growth.
Exactly. Amber, I'm glad you mentioned Fridays because I know I had listened to one of your podcast episodes and you were talking about how when you have emails come into your inbox, you move some of them into like a Friday folder.
Yeah.
So, but I don't remember the details. Can you tell me again what that was?
Yes, absolutely. So what I call this is a power hour. What this means is that it's not just emails though, it's also tasks, like smaller things that come up, anything that takes between 2 and 5 minutes. What I don't want to do is break up my flow during the week with little one-off tasks or emails. And so I will save emails and or tasks that I can put together and get done in what I call a power hour, where you're literally getting done as much as you can, like crossing off to-do items, one after another after another. I often follow up on emails that I sent out during the week. I call it waiting for follow-up. And so I have a folder for that, or a way that I track all the emails that I sent out for the week where I'm waiting for someone to respond or do something with. And I can quickly go through those and just kind of tickle it or, chime them again. Hey, I didn't hear back from you, or are you ready to schedule, or whatever that next action step is. I do all that in a power hour. And what that does is allow more flow through the week of uninterrupted blocks of time because I'm not starting and stopping with little tasks.
Amber, so for the emails, then I can imagine I can just create a folder and then I'll just put them in there. Maybe I can even just call it power hour. Now for tasks, how do you identify the tasks for the power hour? Do you just categorize them in your to-do list?
Yeah. Yes. So I use Outlook and I just tag them for Friday with a certain color code for power hour. That's me personally. This can be done in so many different ways. And I put the due date for Friday. So I don't want to look at it. I don't want to review it. I never want to think about that task again until Friday comes up during the time that I blocked out to look at it. So
and of course you have the words power hour on your calendar.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And so I'll tell you, power hour sounds so much better than power hour and a half. But to be really honest, in my business right now, I block out 90 minutes. And 90 minutes for my flow and what comes in to me on any given week is about the right time that I feel that I can take to get through all of that so that things aren't lingering from week to week. And it's also a way, Carol, again, to ease your mind that you do not need to respond to everything or do these little tasks thinking, if I don't do them now, when are they going to get done? And now those are the things that are literally stealing your larger blocks of time to get these bigger projects done.
Yeah. So Amber, let me ask you about batching, which is kind of related to the calendar blocking. So for example, one of the things that in my homework to you before this call is that I said that I need to be pitching podcasts to be on. So I have my own podcast, but it's great. I love to be on other people's podcasts and talk to their listeners as well. And so do you, as far as like pitching podcasts or looking for speaking engagements, do you consider that a project? And then do you have every week the same project, pitch podcasts and speaking engagements, or do you just have a block for a project and then whatever is the best use of that time that week is what happens during that project time?
No. So I'm so glad you asked this. So I have pitching podcasts for 90 minutes twice a month. So every other Friday. Now, let's be transparent here. I did not work Friday. I wasn't feeling well. I did not work Friday. I ran some errands and then I just chose to take the rest of the day off. Well, it happened to be the Friday that I was supposed to be pitching emails. And so what I did when I came in this morning was I took that 90 minutes and I looked for 90 minutes this week on my calendar that was free and I plugged it in. So it didn't get done on Friday, but I didn't lose that time. Like I know that I'm not going to go another 2 weeks without doing it. And so I was able to just reschedule that. But the benefit of having that on my calendar and visually seeing that is that I was clear that to reach my goals, it's going to take roughly 3 hours a month to pitch either for speaking engagements or podcast interviews, follow up on requests that I've done, like anything that has to do with those things fall in that 90 minutes.
Okay, that's good to know. So, and then projects. What do you consider projects?
So my projects are one and done projects that once done do not need to be done again. So this might be setting up a email drip campaign or building out a new website landing page or once it's done, it doesn't happen again. Anything that's reoccurring or should be reoccurring to block out specific time on your calendar, Carol, should be on there on a regular basis. So other than pitching podcasts and things like that, what are some other activities that you think you would benefit from having regularly on your schedule?
Definitely sales follow-ups. So following up with those prospects I've talked to. And let's see, what else would be probably monthly. I should do a kind of business planning. So review my financials, revenue and expenses, kind of review where I am for the quarter, and then what my priorities or projects are for the next month.
Yes. Okay, Carol. So have you read the book, Profit First?
I have not read it, but I'm familiar with the concept.
Okay, cool. So I actually fell in love with the concept, the book, like all of it. And so for me, I have on my calendar twice a month, the 10th and the 25th. That's what the Profit First model says to do. So really, I'm dispersing my funds twice a month. I block out 90 minutes on the 10th because I'm also reconciling my bank statements, which I don't do anymore. I outsource some of my bookkeeping and stuff. So I'm really just looking at my profit and loss from the previous month. I'm making decisions on budgets, on what I'm going to invest in the next month. But I literally block it out on my calendar and it says Profit First. So any task that I am to do to maintain my financial health of my business happens on the 10th and 25th. And I already have that time carved out on my calendar. Now, what I do is block it out so that, because if it falls on a Tuesday, I'm blocking it out time that I don't have reoccurring client appointments. And that ensures that someone doesn't see that I'm available on the 10th and book that time, because I am putting over a priority that I need to maintain my bookkeeping. Because if you don't do it on the 10th and the 15th comes and then the 20th comes, and then next thing you know, you blink your eyes and the whole quarter's gone by, and and now it's a huge project. It's not something you can get done in an hour.
Yes, I think that's what happens to me. Like, not just with this, like with the financials, but just with anything it happens to be.
So what I would invite you to do is just like you said, so your lead follow-up, your financial stuff, is that we want to keep it bite-sized, something that you could literally squeeze in 1 hour between appointments or something, that if you stayed on top of it on a regular basis, it doesn't seem like this big, hairy monster hiding in the closet. Like, when am I ever going to have 3 hours to do, 3 months worth of bookkeeping? That's when it feels so overwhelming. So we want to make sure that we're planning ahead in bite-sized pieces so that doesn't just overwhelm us, paralyze us into non-action.
Yes, that's really helpful, Amber.
Now, the lead follow-up, I have some tips about that. Do you think that your business needs lead follow-up weekly or every other week?
I would say every other week.
Okay, excellent. So when you are in contact with somebody, so let's say you send a proposal, an agreement, or you do a discovery call and they're like, I need to think about it. I want you to create a task and schedule it for the day that you have blocked out for lead follow-up. So that when you have lead follow-up on your schedule, you can clearly see, oh, look, here's 5 people that I've talked to in the last 2 weeks. These are the people I'm talking to and that I need to lead follow-up with.
So put their names in my to-do item for that, whatever the next date is for my follow-up.
Yes. Now this is the level 1 of this. So this is being, if you don't have a full-on CRM system where it's going to, you can schedule it all out. But the very basics of it is you want to ensure nobody falls through the cracks, that you really don't need to be looking at their name on your to-do list day in and day out, stressing you out until you do follow up with them. So I'd rather just schedule the date to, that day that you do it. Let's say you do it every 15th of the month and whatever other date. Put that date on your task so that it's sitting there waiting for you during that block of time that you've already committed to your lead follow-up.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I kind of do that now. Like right now I have on my to-do list, follow up with so-and-so, but I just kind of picked a date, like 10 or 14 days into the future from the date that we talked.
Yes.
Versus doing it because I know Mondays are follow-ups.
Okay, so this is good. So let's just say you did short, every Monday, just so it's a little less hard to keep track of. This is where you just chose 10 or 4. Okay, are you saying when you chose 10 or 14 days, you would just pick the next Monday because you knew that was the follow-up day?
No, I did not, which is what I should do. Like, say I talked to this person on a Tuesday.
Yes.
And, they said, okay, I need to go, I'm going to go do this and this and this. And I knew that I needed to follow up with them, say 2 weeks from that point.
Yes.
So maybe I would pick exactly 2 weeks. So 2 Tuesdays afterwards.
Oh,
but then
yeah.
so I may do that versus knowing that it should be the Monday because that's my follow-up day. And then what happens is that second Tuesday comes around and then I keep moving the to-do item from day to day because I don't get to it.
Because it showed up on a day it shouldn't be. You're in like 5-6 different client appointment days.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So a trick that I do is if I have somebody on the phone and I say, okay, great. So they say, okay, I need to think about it. I'll say, okay, great. So if I don't hear from you before the 9th, can I follow up with you? And they always say yes. And they generally never follow up because that's why they're reaching out to me is they don't have a follow-up system.
Right. That's all true.
So then I schedule myself because I looked at my calendar and the 9th is Fridays and that's when I do my lead follow-up. So then I just put their name and their notes from our time talking, and I know, and I mark it green. Just this is random stuff for me, but I love anything to do with money and green and lead follow up is green, and it just sits there, and then I don't think about it again till the 9th. Now, what if they reached out to me 3 days later and they're like, signed agreement, I'm ready to work with you now. When the 9th comes up and I see this on my task list, I'm like, oh, Sue's already a client, delete.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sitting there. So I think that if you can ensure that you don't see any kind of lead follow-up other than on Mondays, you'll be able to find 4 or 5 people to where you can lead follow-up and batch it in 30 minutes.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Amber. This is not necessarily about productivity, but do you feel like Fridays are a better day for sales follow-ups than Mondays? I always feel like Friday, like it's getting ready for the weekend. They don't want to think about it right now.
Yeah. So Carol, okay, I'm going to tell you that not just with lead follow-up, but let's say lead generation. So you need to make outbound calls or find out if you can do speaking or whatever that looks like. Many of my clients are in the lead generation business, like real estate, insurance, if they don't lead generate, they're out of business. And I've heard on multiple occasions, okay, well, I'm just not going to do it on Friday because nobody wants to work on Friday. They don't want to hear from me. And I said, okay, is that true? Well, I don't know. I just think it's true. Okay. So humor me and try it because in my experience, you're right. People don't want to work. And when people don't want to work and they're avoiding their to-do list, they're more willing to answer a phone and return an email because they feel like they're working.
Because they're procrastinating too.
Exactly. And so when they're not wanting to work and you are working, you shoot them an email and they're like just waiting for like an email to come in, or they just want to get that email out so that they feel like they're working because they don't really have the energy and drive to like sit down and do focused work because it's the end of their week. And so I'll tell you, Carol, every client that I've challenged this to and said, is that true? And are you willing to try it out to see if it's true for you and your potential clients? They've all come back and said, oh my gosh, I get great results with follow-up on Friday, or I get great results with lead generating on Friday because people really don't, their calendars aren't full of meetings. They're not trying to get big projects done. And so it's perfect for them to get a call or an email from you.
And no one else is following up with them. So this would just be our secret.
Exactly. Yeah. You, me, and everyone that's listening right now.
Right, exactly. That's a great. I'm really glad I asked that question.
Okay.
I like that.
Awesome, Carol. So this was really great. We went in so many different directions because we just had this time together. Now, if we continue this, maybe we do a part 2 or, you and I chat offline. We're going to talk about, today we talked all about how to create more efficiency with how you invest your time. Now, what was not said was that I happen to know that some of the projects that keep getting pushed off are probably investments in creating processes or getting ready for hiring more staff or people to support you. Because before we grow and get leverage, we always have to prepare for that.
Yes.
And so when some of these, as you've reclaimed time, as you implement on some of the strategies you learned today, during your project time, I want you to be working on these things that when you invest in them, you will be that much closer to getting leverage so that maybe someone else is helping you pitch interviews or pitch speaking events or, that you have a process for that. And now you don't need to have that time on your schedule.
Yes, I like that. Like, well, because my VA, she's fantastic, and there's so many more things that she could do, but I just need to be willing to give them to her.
Right, right. For me, I literally just outsourced to my assistant pitching association speaking events for a couple associations that I think are a perfect fit for me, but nationally. So she did all the research, who's the contacts, who's the chapter programming chair, and she's going to do that. Now, this just saved me hours and hours of work, but it took me time to invest to tee her off with it. Where does she go to get the information? Who should she be reaching out to? What's the email look like that she should be sending? All of that. Now, that was a project that you would have seen on my calendar in the last couple weeks, was actually setting time aside to think through that process. Now, had I just kept pushing that project off, Crystal, my assistant, would not have been able to go now invest maybe 10 hours of getting me speaking opportunities where I would never, ever have found 10 hours on my schedule to do this.
Right. That's what I keep telling myself. It's worth investing 2 hours to save myself 10 or more.
Yeah. So, I mean, intellectually, we know this, but Carol, we have to invest in others to be able to invest in ourselves and grow our businesses. But it's not just a financial investment, but it's a time investment. So as you move forward and try to implement, but as you implement one strategy after another that we chatted about today, I want you to be thinking about it as reclaiming time, so that you can carve out time to invest in building up what you need, processes, systems, clearly identifying a project that you could have your VA do. Those are the types of one and done projects that I'd love to see on your schedule.
Okay. I like that. Okay. And I can definitely do that. And I love color coding my calendar. So I now have an excuse to go in there and waste time and no, I'm just kidding. You're like, no, Carol, that's not the point. No, I'm just kidding. No, I will definitely be putting this. I feel like now I have a really good understand. Like I knew this before, like I knew what I needed to do, but your specifics have helped me so much. And I've been taking notes as we've been going along, but your specifics have really helped a lot. And I guess maybe giving myself permission to say, it's okay for me to warm up in the morning and to spend a little bit of that time doing things like email and social media, and then do the content creation, and then find the blocks in between. And then the Friday power hour, like just having the language, I think is really helpful.
Yeah. I'm thinking back of all the things we chatted about today. And I think that the underlying theme was structure, so that everything has a place and a home on your calendar, so that when you are when you have it on your calendar to record an episode, that you are fully present and you're not worried about what's sitting in your email. You're not worried about that you haven't been visible in a Facebook group. You're not worried about all the other tasks, because ideally they have a home. And they have a home so that now they can be batched. And we always create efficiency with batching. We always create momentum with batching. And so I think that we found a lot of ways for you to reclaim time by restructuring your day and taking, advantage of your energy highs and lows, and that you will be able to see over time the payback of, okay, oh my gosh, I just totally teed my assistant up to, take this task on from me forever. If it takes you, let's just say it takes you 30 minutes to set it up, train it, create the process for a small task that takes about 10 minutes. Okay. Ideally, you don't have 30 minutes right now. That's how you're feeling. You're like, oh my gosh, I'll just do it myself. It takes 10 minutes. Yes. But think about it. Every time your assistant does that task over 3 times, you're reclaiming that 10 minutes. And when you reclaim that 10 minutes, now you can invest it in the next process that will get you back more time.
Yes. And I hear, I think having the project time on my calendar will make me feel better about spending the time on those things.
Yes. Okay, great. So I like that.
Now, Amber, this was kind of like a coaching, right? Like a coaching episode that we did here. Now, I probably need more accountability and things. So what does it look like to work with you longer than just a single strategy session? Yes.
So my one-on-one clients start with a assessment. And so I do an assessment. They do the assessment rather online. It's quite in depth. It goes over where they're at, where they want to be, what their current productivity habits are, what apps they use, programs they use, what is their day structured? What does a perfect day look like if they had one? It just goes really in depth. And then I take that assessment and we have our first strategy session. And our strategy session is 90 minutes. And a strategy session, what it is doing is there's no coaching. It's simply laying the groundwork for what we're going to be focusing on in the next 90 days in our coaching sessions. So we're talking about what are the priorities, what projects need to get done, what is the biggest place that I think that they can reclaim time to invest it in getting these projects done. And then we do coaching twice a month. And those are 45-minute sessions where we're laser focused on the coaching around getting that 90-day goals accomplished. And I work with my clients anywhere between 6 months and 1 year. I have 2 contracts, either 6 months or 1 year. And we meet regularly. That's like the nitty gritty of how I work with my one-on-one clients. And then like a session like this, like we talked about a lot, Carol.
I know we did.
I mean, this is more than we would talk because I don't want anyone feeling overwhelmed, but I just wanted you to get like a sampling of like different directions that you can make improvements on. And, in a coaching session, we really narrow in on one strategy. And then in between the coaching sessions, we set up metrics. So like for you, I would want to see your blocked schedule. I want to see that you calendared out all of your specific tasks. And then I want a screenshot of what it actually looked like at the end of the week. So what did you plan? What actually got done? And we go deeper into, okay, why did that not happen? And we just tweak the process until you find something that flows with you very, very well.
I think that's the main benefit of having coaching is how personal and customized it is for me, for that person, that individual person, versus just reading a productivity book or going through a product, which we know that it's helpful tips and there's things that we can definitely apply. But I think we are all so unique in the way that we find that we work best, that is having someone like you to say, oh, okay, so here's where you're falling, like you keep hitting this obstacle every week. So then let's reframe that for you.
Yes. So I carry between 12 and 15 one-on-one clients at a time. And while the challenges are generally very similar, I could tell you that there is almost no coaching session that is the same. Because I'm always taking into account all the other variables in their life and what are their current habits and what are they working on improving and what's worked for them in the past, what hasn't worked for them in the past. If I could tell you one thing about why I think that one-on-one coaching works is because I am really looking for the best way to honor your authentic self. So I don't want anybody leaving a session being like, I should do this, I should do that. No, you get to do that because it's in line with what you feel is right for you. And when that happens, we get better results because we're more consistent with the actions we take.
Right. It's very hard for us, even as much discipline as we want to have. If we don't want to do something a certain way, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
That's just not going to do it.
Not at all. Not at all. We start beating ourselves up and we should have, why can everyone else do it that way and I can't? Well, there is no one size fits all for sure. So Carol, thank you so much for asking me about what that coaching looks like. I didn't even ask you to ask me that. So I appreciate you.
That's because I'm a coach and I have a podcast. And so I know what it's like. I really do want to know. And Amber, I also have a gift for your listeners.
Yes.
I can share that.
Absolutely. I was just going to ask you, first of all, how does everybody find you? And I know you have a gift for us. So we'll share both of those for us today.
So my podcast is called Speaking Your Brand. And as I mentioned, Amber was on episode 43 about how speaking can grow or derail your business if you're not careful. That was a great conversation. So would love for people to listen to that. And my website is speakingyourbrand.com. And I have a strategic speaking guide that goes along with this theme of really how to make the most out of which speaking engagements and podcasts you should pitch for. And it comes back to productivity. You shouldn't be pitching to things that are not a good fit for you and the audience that you want to reach. So they can get that free guide by going to speakingyourbrand.com/Amber.
Okay, that's awesome. You know, Carol, I think everyone that's listening, if you're an entrepreneur, one of the buckets that you have is marketing/visibility. And the best way to get out there, either locally or nationally, virtually, or in person, is speaking about how you help your clients, what your special skill set is on how you help them. And Carol is amazing at helping you do that so that once you get more visible, then you have more people to talk to, and then you have more clients. It's a great,
and then you'll need Amber because your calendar will be full like mine.
Exactly. So it all starts with, if you've been thinking, I have something to say and I don't know how to say it, and I wanted to speak and I don't know what the structure should be like anything like that. Like, Carol is your woman. So definitely take advantage of her guide and go find her and see if that would be a fit for growing your business in 2018 and beyond.
Oh, thank you so much, Amber, for having me on the podcast and for giving me all of these fantastic tips. I'm really excited about putting these into practice.
All right. Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you, Carol. Okay, so there you have it, my first ever on-air coaching. I think that you are getting a pretty good idea of what a coaching session looks like. But like I said, every session is different depending on where you're at, who you are, and what your challenges are. If you listened to this episode and thought, I need to work with Amber, or I need to get some coaching from Amber, then I will invite you to email me at amber@theproductivityspecialist.com. Put coaching in the subject line, because right now I am only looking to bring on 4 more coaching clients. I really run my business quite lean on the one-on-one coaching side. And therefore, you're not going to find anything on my website at this time, because I have been at max with my one-on-one clients for some time. So that website page is not active. However, if you are really interested in taking action, if you have been listening to my podcast for some time and always wondered what it would be like to work with me, then now is the time to take action. And I am inviting you to send me an email and let me know you're interested in coaching. There's no obligation. We'll jump on the phone and do a discovery call to make sure that we are a right fit. And I will go over all the details of what you can expect when working with me. Again, you can do that by going to amber@theproductivityspecialist.com. I have loved having you listen to Productivity Straight Talk, but I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on what you learned today, what are you going to take action on? Honestly, even if it's a small task, activity, action item, a new habit that you want to focus on. This doesn't need to be big, massive change. It just needs to be a change in the right direction based on what you learned. This could even be a mindset shift, a perspective shift about the way you think of time. It is really limitless. What I want to invite you to do is take a few moments before you go on off to the next podcast or into the office or pick up your children or wherever you're at. Really ask yourself, what were some key takeaways for you? If you would like to share your actionables and receive support, guidance, and motivation from entrepreneurs just like you, then join us on the inside of our Productivity Straight Talk community. You can join us by going to productivitycommunity.com. Again, if you're not already a member, it's completely free. We have a private Facebook community, and you can join us by going to productivitycommunity.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, send it on off to someone else that you think will receive value from the episode. I thank you so much for thinking about sharing this episode and just being a consistent listener. I really treasure every single one of you. So that's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.